Our country faces enemies at home and abroad who threaten to tear us apart. Whether it's the culture war, the military, our police and immigration officials, or the education system itself, America is under siege. My guest today shines the spotlight on each one of these threats and how we fight back. Victoria Manning is Senior Investigative Researcher for Restoration News. She served 8 years on the Virginia Beach School Board before that. She's a military wife with a deep expertise in de-woking the armed forces, and has brought to light literally thousands of heinous crimes committed by illegal aliens across America. And it all converges on her home state, Virginia, where Vicky has broken story after story exposing the Spanberger Democrats ready to tax and regulate the Old Dominion into poverty. I'm Hayden Ludwig, and you're watching Restoration Spotlight. Vicky, thanks for coming back on the show.
It's great to be with you again, Hayden.
So you obviously wear a lot of hats around here on Restoration News. You focus on education policy. You're the only member of our team who has a background as an elected official. You expose leftist military officers pushing DEI through restorethemilitary.com. And you're the brilliant mind behind illegalialiens.com, our project to expose illegal alien crimes from coast to coast. I want to touch on the gamut of these issues today. But I want to start with your background in Virginia politics, because this is actually how you got involved in politics and with Restoration News. So let's start talking about your background as a school board member in Virginia Beach, how you got involved in that, and what you've seen develop in the years since.
You know, I felt like I was always fighting against something and trying to expose what was really going on behind the scenes. The lowering the bar, as I mentioned earlier. But what happened just a couple of years after I was elected was the COVID crisis, the COVID shutdown of our schools. And I began to have to fight to simply just keep kids in the school buildings and out of the virtual schools that was so harmful. So that was something that I didn't anticipate. And then I had to start fighting against boys being in girls' bathrooms. You know, something else that I never thought that I would encounter as a school board member. So that was something that I never expected. And ultimately, we were successful in the Virginia Beach School Board of getting it flipped back to conservative control on my last year there, and they're starting to do some really good things in the district.
So you spent 7 years then, basically with Democrat leftist control of the school board. Virginia Beach is one of the biggest Republican voting cities historically in the whole Commonwealth. But it has had a Democrat school board. That's shocking.
Yeah, it has become more of a purple city now. The demographics are changing. We do have a high military population that's very transient, and many of them are not registered to vote in our city, in our state. They're registered to vote elsewhere. So while we typically have a conservative base in the community, they don't all vote there.
But even if it's 49-51 at any given time in a presidential, the school board was lopsidedly leftist. That kind of tells me that conservatives weren't paying close attention to school board races.
Absolutely, and that's something that we battle against in school board elections every year. People, when I am at the polls working on election day, I ask if they know who they're voting for school board. And the automatic response is, I don't have kids in school, I'm not voting for school board. But school board is one of the most important positions on the ballot because they make direct decisions about what curriculum students are taught, what policies are implemented that impact the employees of the district, the salary of teachers, who is hired, and what policies are pushed in the classroom. So I try to educate people about the importance of that. Not only that topic, but also the people who are running for school board, many of them use that as a platform for further political office in the future. We have a number of school board members in our state who are now serving in the House of Delegates or Senate of our state legislature.
Both Republicans and Democrats?
Yes, mostly Democrats, because historically, if you look at the demographics of school boards across our state and nation, they are controlled by Democrats.
How did that come to pass? I mean, did Democrats get together and realize what you've just explained to us 30 years ago, or when did that begin?
You know, I find that the Republican Party historically has not endorsed in school board elections. The Democrats started doing this many, many years ago. And so on election day, at the precincts, you have Democrat volunteers there saying, here's your slate of candidates that are supported by the Democrat Party.
Of course.
You didn't have that all the way down the ballot on the Republican side. We're starting to see that more now. Additionally, in some localities, they do have the party designation on the ballot. But in most districts, well, in Virginia, they don't have that at all.
It's nonpartisan.
It's nonpartisan.
Yes.
And so people go to the ballot box and the school board is last on their ballot. So if they even get down to that point to vote, they don't know who the Democrat is and who the Republican is. And so they're only relying on the folks volunteering outside of the precinct doors to tell them who to vote for.
Is there a money aspect to this? You know, what would an average school board election cost in a city like Virginia Beach? You know, did the Republican fundraise better than the Democrat, vice versa?
Yeah, so fundraising, it's interesting. You have more Democrat organizations that have been supporting the candidates themselves. When I ran, I was able to raise a lot of money. I raised the most ever in a local school board election in Virginia Beach, which was around $20,000 at the time.
Yeah, that seems high, 20,000.
Yeah, that was the most in 2016 that anyone had ever raised. And since then, I have been trying to help school board members fundraise, and that I believe helped lead to us eventually flipping the school board back to conservative control.
So you were there 2016 to 2024, but you're a native of Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, education is a huge issue in the state. It was how Glenn Youngkin won his 2021 governor's race, right? There's absolutely no doubt about that. How have you seen education policy evolve, for better and for worse? I'm guessing there's a lot of worse, in that time period.
Yeah, what's interesting is that I've learned that there's one organization that has a monopoly of control on school board policies. It's called the Virginia School Boards Association. And they're considered a nonpartisan organization, but they're very far left in their views. They're always in Richmond lobbying the legislature on what policies they want to see put in the classrooms. Additionally, school boards across the state use their policy services to draft the policies that they're considering to be implemented in their local district.
I see.
And recently, I helped start an organization called the School Board Member Alliance that is a counter to those viewpoints. Again, it's a nonpartisan organization, but it doesn't come at the policies from a far left political perspective like the Virginia School Boards Association. And there are other associated organizations similar to that in states around the nation.
Yeah, I was going to say, we've talked a lot about Virginia so far, but this is true pretty much across the board. I know you've done a lot of work in North Carolina, for instance, around the Parents' Bill of Rights. So talk to us about this. I mean, how universal a problem is this leftist control of school boards?
Yeah, absolutely. The North Carolina legislature adopted some phenomenal legislation a couple of years ago that emphasized the rights of parents. Parents have a right to know what curriculum is being implemented in their kids' schools, if gender identity is being pushed, those types of things. And actually, they've prohibited gender identity discussions at the elementary level. And a lot of the far left school boards have pushed back, refusing to adopt those policies. And our reporting pointed that out and called them out. There are still some school boards down in North Carolina who are resisting, but the legislature is really pushing them to do the right thing and making sure that parents' rights and parents' views are heard.
One of the ways you've exposed this is through a project of Restoration News, restoringedu.com. You've gone through all of the list of laws in each of these states. Tell us a little bit about that. I want to talk about the expansion to it in just a moment here, but let's lay the groundwork for people who aren't familiar with restoringedu.com.
Yes, so we have a map on Restoring EDU that you can click on your state and learn about the different school choice laws that are offered in your state, if any. And we grade them based upon their friendliness towards school choice, education freedom laws. Whether or not tax dollars follow the student that can be used for homeschooling, private schooling, special education services, things such as that. And we give each state a grade across the nation We also look into homeschooling in each one of those states to discover whether or not that state is friendly to homeschoolers. And we give resources to parents that can be used to determine if they're looking to even move out of state to a more friendly, education-friendly state.
Yeah, and what's interesting about that too is it's not really a red state, blue state dichotomy. I mean, every blue state sucks, but a lot of red states have surprisingly restrictive laws.
Absolutely. There are a lot of red states. I do see that the dynamic is changing in that through this parental rights movement. Republicans are being forced to address these issues and to kind of come back to common sense on providing those opportunities for students who are stuck in failing schools who have no choice but to remain in those failing schools. And this is not a party line topic. There are students who come from low socioeconomic backgrounds who are stuck in failing schools, and the families have no alternative.
So recently we launched a new project, District Watch, which is an expansion of the work you've already done grading the states on restoringedu.com. What does that do?
So we're diving down closer to the district level, not just the state level. And we're exposing these far-left policies and far-left school board members that are leading these districts.
Okay, give us an example of one.
Okay, so in Virginia Beach, there's a school board member that was elected last year. She's very far radical left, but she's serving in a majority Republican district. And she recently attended a student protest at one of the local high schools in Virginia Beach, wearing a T-shirt of the far-left group Moms Demand Action.
One of the leading gun control groups, actually.
Right. So it was a gun control rally being held at the school, and this school board member participated in the rally, taking photos with the students, blasting it on social media.
Wow. She's
also on video, in a campaign video, literally booing the Second Amendment with a thumbs down.
Wow.
So that's just one example of many that we're calling out on our District Watch
Actually,
website.
I think David Hogg, the brief DNC vice chair from like 5 minutes ago, right? He actually was associated with Moms Demand Action. Like they're a big national group.
Yeah, he is very involved with that group.
Yeah, this is not a middle of the road organization.
Yeah.
So I want to change gears a little bit and talk about a different aspect of your reporting. Another hat you wear. So you're a military wife, right? You also lead the charge on restorethemilitary.com. This is a project of both Restoration News and our sister organization, Restoration of America Foundation. Tell us about restorethemilitary.com.
Sure. Yeah, so my husband served in the United States Navy for 30 years. So I live in a military community and am very involved in our community and our military life, and have seen a lot of changes over those years. So there's a focus back on warfighting in the military, and that's what we're trying to focus on restorethemilitary.com, and focus on those individual, especially the leaders in our military who are not focused on warfighting, but are focused on woke DEI policies. And we call them out on restoringthemilitary.com individually with examples.
Yeah, so in other words, if District Watch is calling out school board members and woke teachers, you're doing the same thing, but now for senior officers in the military, right? And we're talking about all branches, or give us the scope.
Yeah, it's all branches of the military, as well as our service academies and our professional military education institutions, such as our Naval War College, the Army War College, and institutions such as that.
That's fascinating. Okay, give me a couple of examples of this, because I know there's some of these guys who've been fired, other guys who, because of our reporting, have been held up for promotion. And that's a good thing, because we don't want woke officers responsible for turning West Point into, DEI and critical race theory classes. We don't want them being promoted. This is being taken seriously by Pete Hegseth, War Secretary, and President Trump, isn't it?
It absolutely is. And hopefully they're watching what we're putting on our site. And it looks like maybe they are, because I would say 20% of the individuals that are on our site have been fired or have retired.
20%?
Since we've launched, 20%.
So give me a couple of examples of these guys. Who are we talking about?
So there's a Navy admiral that when he was in command of a ship, he allowed a drag queen performer on his ship to perform while they were deployed.
Oh, good. That's good for morale.
And that is one of the individuals that is profiled on our website who we were able to get their promotion stopped. The leadership of West Point, they are actually still in command of that institution, yet they have pushed DEI through their curriculum and their policies. They changed the duty, honor, country
Motto right.
of the institution, and they're still in command of that university.
It's unbelievable. I didn't appreciate until this project went underway just how deep the rot goes, but it also makes sense. I mean, look, this is not to criticize the average soldier or sailor or anything. They're fabulous. It's the fabulous leaders at the top of this thing who are driving it all, over a cliff here. And there are a lot more than I ever expected. We've already exposed well over 100 of these people, and there are, maybe dozens or hundreds more that we're still exposing.
And they're really impacting our service academies, and that's something that we've done a deep dive on. We are paying attention to the boards of visitors meetings of these service academies that no one else has ever reported on that I have found.
And that's the oversight.
That's the oversight entity. It's typically the president is able to make appointees, but congressmen and senators are able to serve in the capacity of oversight and report back to the president and the House Armed Services Committee and the Senate Armed Services Committee of what is actually going on in these institutions so that they can have control over it. And we are learning about what happened under previous administrations and how they pushed DEI policies in their admissions. They were admitting students based upon race.
Yes.
And not including important SAT scores, merit-based scoring in the application process and the admissions process. We have called that out, and that's another project that we have on our website.
Yeah, it's stunning that the Supreme Court overturned race-based admissions in, I believe it was 2023, the Students for Fair Admissions decision. But that did not include military service academies like West Point.
Right, it excluded military service academies. But thankfully, Secretary of Defense Hegseth and President Trump said that they will not allow race-based practices in our military at all, including our service academies. So
back to merit, yes.
Back to merit, but we are making sure that that's happening. So far, since President Trump took over, it does seem that those practices have changed.
Speaking of boards of visitors, meaning this is the oversight committee for West Point, Annapolis. You wrote a very moving article late last year about Charlie Kirk attending I believe, was he a member of the Board of Visitors?
He was appointed by President Trump to be a member of the Air Force Academy Board of Admissions.
And he was one of the best ones.
Or Board of Visitors.
Yes.
Yeah, he was fantastic. During his first meeting at the board, he had met with the students at the academy prior to the meeting. And one of the things that the students told him was they were very upset that they couldn't attend the basis chapel because it had been under construction the entire time that they had been at the school. And so Charlie brought that up in the meeting and really pushed to have that project fast-tracked. And the board has made that a priority.
Wow.
And I want to commend the Board of Visitors of the Air Force Academy and of the Naval Academy now. They are doing some great things. They still have a ways to go, but the leadership of those boards are really prioritizing warfighting and making sure that they are acting as an oversight board, not just something to add to their resumes. I will say we are seeing the West Point board has not done the same. The leadership of the West Point board is not taking control. They're allowing the far left superintendent to run that organization, and that is not how it is supposed to be.
So it's a similar situation, I understand, at the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy. Tell us a little bit about, I believe there was a painting that the superintendent, a very woke individual, put in the basement?
Yeah, so Admiral Noonan was the superintendent of the Merchant Marine Academy, but she is one of those on our list at restorethemilitary.com that has been fired.
Oh, yes, good.
So
a scalp claim.
Yeah, she has a long record on our website. So Admiral Noonan received some complaints from a far left outside organization about a painting that had hung at the Merchant Marine Academy since the 1940s. The building that it was in was originally the chapel, and it was a painting of Jesus watching over distressed mariners at sea. And someone found that painting to be a problem and complained to Admiral Noonan. And she initially put a shower curtain over this large painting so that students couldn't see the painting. Students began complaining, parents began complaining, but she doubled down. And she took the painting down and eventually put it in the basement of the current chapel. I visited that chapel and visited where that painting was placed. There were dehumidifiers placed right next to the painting because it was in such a humid area that floods.
Oh, good. Great.
One of the first things that Secretary Duffy did when he took control, because the university is under the control of the Department of Transportation, and Secretary Duffy spoke at an event of the midshipmen at dinner, and he said, "I think it's time to bring Jesus out of the basement." And he got a standing ovation from the midshipmen of the Merchant Marine Academy.
Wow.
And he made that happen. So the painting has been restored to its rightful place where it was in the original chapel.
And you made that happen.
Well, I like to think I helped make that happen. I wrote a lot of articles on that topic.
I love it. Restoring Jesus to prominence right there.
Yeah.
So that's one big pillar, right? It's the naming the names. It's not just complaining about the institution, the decay, the wokeness. It's saying, oh, here's the people responsible. You get rid of them, and it's amazing how you see this disconnect between the regular servicemen and women and the woke leadership that were put in place by Obama and Biden, because that happened under Biden, changed immediately under President Trump. Yeah. I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about the other pillar of RestoreTheMilitary.com. This isn't just firing people, it's both hiring the right people in the right place, promoting the good admirals and generals and other leaders, but it's also changing policy, right? So talk a little bit about how this centers on the piece of legislation they call the National Defense Authorization Act. What is the NDAA?
So the NDAA is a way that we can help offer solutions to these problems. We can, what Secretary Hegseth and President Trump have done are fantastic, but they're not solidified in legislation. And the NDAA helps us do that. It's a funding mechanism for our military, and that's something that we have to address. Our military stockpiles are being depleted. We're seeing that right now with this conflict with Iran, this war with Iran. We're going to have to replace all of our munitions and all of our aircraft that we're losing over there. It has to be replaced, and it has to be done through legislation. So the NDAA helps that funding, but we can also get policies written into the NDAA, such as that we won't allow DEI, wokeness in the military, that we can solidify the admissions practices that promote merit and not race-based practices. Those are the types of things that we can get in the NDAA, and we can push legislators to make that happen.
So that was passed just a few months ago as we're recording. How would you rank it? Good things, bad things? Was it a knockout success?
I think it was average. One concern that I have is that a lot of the discussions around the NDAA were done behind closed doors. And we really don't know what those discussions were. So we're pushing for more transparency in that process in the future going forward. And we're hoping that we can have some insight and so that we can help offer some solutions to the problems that we're calling out on our website. This isn't just us calling out the problems, but we want to offer solutions to those problems too.
That's right. So the central theme here is getting back to warfighting readiness, right? What do you have a military to do? To smash things and kill people. That's really what it's there to do. And it's not there as a social experiment. That's the through line through all of our blueprint that we have at RestoreTheMilitary.com.
And I think all of these efforts being undertaken by Secretary Hegseth and President Trump are improving our recruiting as well.
Yes.
When they took over, recruiting numbers were terrible. And now they're meeting their recruiting numbers 6 months into the year rather than not meeting the recruiting numbers at all after a full year. So in the past, under Biden, the Marine Corps was the only one meeting their recruiting numbers. Now, under Secretary Hegseth, we have 100% recruitment in all of our branches.
So even though the problem isn't solved, there are still some bad apples or some bad policies that got codified in the last NDAA. You seem more optimistic about the future of the military.
I absolutely do. I see and talk with our service members regularly, and they're excited about what they're seeing. They're excited about getting back to warfighting. They didn't sign up for the military to go down a woke path. They signed up to the military to serve their nation, to defend their nation. And that's what's happening now.
You've just watched part one of a two-part interview with Vicky Manning, senior investigative researcher for Restoration News. Catch the second half next time, only on Restoration Spotlight. If you like what you hear and want to support our work on the front lines of the culture war, visit restoration-news.com, where we publish hard-hitting news, commentary, and investigative deep dives that always put America first. That's restoration-news.com. I'm Hayden Ludwig, and you'll see you next time.